What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your source for everything in the world of video games. As always, you can always join our show by being the highlight of the week. Just go to insidethegame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. What's coming up on today's episode? Well, here it is. It's the rundown.
Where there's certain puzzles where you have to defeat these enemies. It unlocks a larger door, you go through that and fight the actual boss.
Finally, New World, the big MMO that Amazon Gaming has been working on for such a long time, has dropped. Quite an exciting season so far. I had a couple weeks off of the show, so getting back into the swing of things, oh my goodness, we have a lot to cover, guys.
Guardians of the Galaxy from IDOS Montreal first saw the trailer release in June, and well, it left me a little underwhelmed.
We're jumping into Residual this week on the Nintendo Switch. This is a cool 2D pixelated survival game.
Wow, that looks like a loaded show, so let's get going as Scott starts things off with Death's Gambit Afterlife.
Are we running from death or for death? Let's talk about that. This is Death's Gambit Afterlife. I've taken a look into Death's Gambit Afterlife. I'm going to refer to it as Afterlife from henceforth. And this is going to be a little bit of a preview versus a review. I've spent many hours into this game now, but it feels a little unfair to give it a finished score at this point, but I will tell you what I enjoy, what I maybe don't enjoy, and just give you an idea of this game if you're curious. Afterlife is known as a Metroidvania. If that's not familiar to you, it's a 2D scroller adventure game, and this one has a lot of RPG elements and a pretty interesting story twist. Your character has succumbed to death. Well, sort of. You're trapped in this limbo state, and death will keep resurrecting you as many times as it takes for you to complete his quest. You have to do death's bidding to break this kind of curse placed on you. You have to break it by fighting a lot of different enemies in this state of limbo, and especially these bosses that you come across. Some of them are quite difficult, and it really gives you a sense of reward when you do finally triumph. You have to go through a lot of these bosses, and you have the chance to level along the way. I'll touch on that shortly, but this is a 2D kind of platformer attacking kind of game, where you have a heavy attack, a light attack, some sort of ability that you can use, and you're traversing this world in more of an adventure kind of status, getting through these slight puzzles to put yourself into the next boss fight, triumph, and get to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Now, that sounds maybe pretty simple, but there's a lot of variety that I've seen so far, where there's certain puzzles where you have to defeat these enemies. It unlocks a larger door, you go through that, and fight the actual boss. And that can be quite intense. There's a lot of these enemies that really swing back in a heavy way, and depending on how you spec your character out, it could be quite a fight. At the very beginning of the game, you get to choose a class, and there, I believe, are 6 or 8 different classes you can choose from at the beginning, and you're picking something like a mage or a thief or a knight, what's known as a death knight. There's a lot of these different options. They determine what your main weapon is at the start of the game and what stats you have that are higher than other ones. So, for example, a knight may have higher vitality, that gives you a longer health bar. Whereas the mage, as I was playing, has a ranged attack, and that's pretty interesting, but you also scale off of your intelligence. So it gives you just kind of different ways to carve out a character, and a lot of customization along the way. It's not just the skills that you're leveling up, you do find equipment and different weapon variants along the way, so there's actually quite a lot of choice to what you're doing and how you choose to attack these different bosses.
I'm afraid so. What do I always tell you?
In terms of choice, there seems to be a lot of these kind of choices that are either offered to you or hinted upon, and you're kind of left to figure that out. For example, you can become mortal, seemingly breaking death's curse, but that comes with heavy penalties. And unless you're wearing the right equipment, have the right weapon and such, it's not going to be advantageous to do that. But again, this is more of an RPG, so it gives you a lot of choice, and you can kind of decide on what you want to do before you really get into the thick of it. The majority of your time is spent exploring, and that can be really satisfactory for somebody who enjoys Metroid, enjoys Castlevania. There's these wide open areas, there's these tight corridors, but you're able to kind of scroll through them at your own pace, and that's a lot of fun. Especially when you find different equipment along the way, you maybe take a detour that you wouldn't otherwise, and it gives you access to like a secret area. That can be really exciting. I think the graphics are totally satisfactory. They don't really push the hardware by any means, but they are definitely interesting and they do the job just fine. The audio for me is quite forgettable. I really don't recall if there was much of a soundtrack to it, but that was all secondary to the action for me. This is a 2D fighter, and I don't play a lot of those, but this was pretty easy to get into, but I can tell it's hard to master. There's a lot of the RPG elements underneath the combat, and that's what actually stands out to me the most. I like the idea of different equipment, speccing your character. As you level up, you can kind of splash into a different area. You can add a strength kind of build to your mage, and there's a lot of customization that way. This one really landed well with me. I'm absolutely going to recommend this to anybody of the Metroidvania fandom. If you are curious about this game at all, I would give it a look, and I definitely had a good time.
Alright, so for this week's mobile mention, I'm talking about Cloud Raiders again. A while back, I recommended this game because it is my favorite base building sim that's on the mobile gaming side of things. I mean, I've played Clash of Clans, Star Wars Commander, all sorts of these different style of games, and I love them. But Cloud Raiders, there was just a special place for that in my heart. But today I have to bring some bad news. Cloud Raiders, it's no longer supported. I tried to log in on my phone and well, it's no longer there. I just forever am trying to update, and my brother, again on iOS, I'm using an Android, he tried to log in and the same failure messages were showing up. So this irritates me quite a bit. I've been playing this game for years. I mean, I'm getting close to like 8 to 10 years playing this game. I've just loved Cloud Raiders. So to see it go, it's just another sad day for mobile gaming. Alright guys, we got some good and some bad news in regards to Amazon Gaming. Yes, finally, New World, the big MMO that Amazon Gaming has been working on for such a long time, has dropped. And we have some insane numbers to talk about. Alright, so first things first, we had over 700,000 concurrent players at the same time. This is insane, guys. But what's even more insane is that they had over 400,000 people waiting in queue to log into the game. So what does this mean? Well, this means that unfortunately Amazon was unprepared for such an event. They were not expecting to have over 1 million people playing their game, and I don't entirely blame them. I mean, Amazon Games has had a pretty rough go over the last couple years, and I mean, the media hasn't really been giving them much slack as of late, so maybe they weren't expecting this many people to drop at the same time. But Amazon Games, guys, these guys have the deepest of pockets, so there's no reason for them to have had server issues. I mean, like I said, these guys have all the money possible. They should have prepared for over 2 million people playing at the same time. People are hungry for MMOs. And this game, to be fair, looks very appealing. And for the actual people that have played the game, people were giving it quite a bit of praise. So I think Amazon, they really, I'm kind of upset. I really wish they would have struck this one home, because if they had all their people playing at the same time with minimal issues, man, what a story this could have been. But I'm still not totally hating on this, guys. Amazon Games, they've had over 1 million people trying to play their game at the same time. This is great news. If they can bring success, this means that we can have more games from more game developers, bringing just more spice to gaming in general. So please let me know, have you tried the new MMO New World? Is this a game for you? I myself don't really dive too deep into MMOs. I've been playing Fallout 76. I'm sure you all might know that for those who have been following the show as of late. But please let me know on our Discord or on our website at insidethegame.ca if you've tried this game out.
The Game Awards are back for 2021, and Jeff Keighley on Twitter has let us know that they're going to be on December 9th. That's a Thursday, and you know what, honestly, the biggest piece of news here isn't even just the fact that the Game Awards date has been announced, it's the fact that we're going to have an held in-person audience at this event. This will be one of the first in-person kind of events we've had in over the last year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. All the health and safety protocols have really shut down some of these larger events. And honestly, a lot of these events really thrive with the crowd being there. I mean, it's great to be able to stream it from your house and it's free, and you don't have to worry about trying to get tickets to some of these events. This event is still going to be invite only right now, but at the same time, they are going to still be streaming it for free online. So if you don't get an invite, you will still be able to attend. But just having an audience there, I think, will just amplify the event as a whole. And I honestly, Jeff Keighley's already kind of outpoured his excitement for the fact that we are going to have an audience this year, and they are going to be coming out with some more information on the health and safety protocols that they will be following this year, and for the guests that are going to be invited as well. They said they're going to give out some more of that information over the next coming weeks, and then a little closer to the event, we're actually going to be getting some of the nominees as well. So I mean, overall, exciting news to finally have a gaming event happen with people in the crowd. I mean, it's been something that we've been missing over the last year, and it's just really nice to see. So stay glued to Jeff Keighley and everything that he's going on at Twitter over there, because he's going to give you some more information about the event. So if you are one of the lucky invitees, you will get some more information on what you need to be looking out for before the event. So honestly, thank you, Jeff Keighley, for letting us know the date. But honestly, I'm just excited to see how this event all plays out.
In April next year, someone's getting a new redesigned logo, and it's already been hit with a lot of criticism from the community, as Bandai Namco is changing the iconic yellow, red and orange logo to, well, the best way to describe it is text in a speech bubble with a new slogan, "Fun for all into the future." Now, in a press release, they explained the concept behind the design. The new logo speech bubble motif, Fukidashi in Japanese, expresses the potential of the brand to connect with people around the world and inspire them with amazing ideas. It also represents Japan's manga culture that has become so popular everywhere. The logo also stands for our determination to communicate with fans worldwide, to connect with our fans and to create entertainment unique to Bandai Namco. The magenta used as the motif's colour not only represents diversity, but also creates a bright and fun impression and easy to reproduce. Now, I have to say, this new logo looks crisp and tidy, but there's a lot of people out there who don't like change. So hit us up at InsideTheGame.ca and let us know what your thoughts are on Bandai Namco's new logo.
Alright, it's great to be back with some more Rainbow Six Siege North American Pro League coverage. We had quite an exciting season so far. I had a couple weeks off of the show, so getting back into the swing of things, oh my goodness, we have a lot to cover, guys. This stage is playing out very differently, with some teams absolutely popping off and others not performing as well as they maybe should be. But we'll get into that later. Heading into the first match, we had Space Station Gaming up against TSM. Unfortunately, I could not get any footage of this game due to some technical errors, but with a 7-3 victory for SSG over TSM, this puts Space Station Gaming in a spot where they've been sitting pretty much all year. So with our second match, we had Beast Coast fighting off the Sonics on Chalet. Chalet is a very strong map for the Sonics, and it showed in today's performance against the inconsistent Beast Coast. Beast Coast has so much potential, and throughout this year we've seen them have some amazing games and then some pretty sloppy games. This game at first looked promising with a 3-3 tie going into the second half, but once the Sonics went on defense, Beast Coast could not pull even a win on attack. With 3 flawless rounds and a 7-3 victory for the Sonics, this puts both teams in a very tight position on the leaderboards in very different ways. We'll get into that later after these next 2 games highlights. Heading into match 2, we had a nail-biting match with Dark Zero fending off Xset on Villa. This was the first time Villa was played in Stage 3 so far, so it was a nice change to see. And then for it to go back and forth for 15 rounds made it even more exciting. Eclipse had an incredible match with a 4K round and just was a killing machine for Dark Zero. And the addition of Canadian coming back to the Pro League from retirement and playing for Dark Zero is insane to me. Like, what happened over these last 2 weeks while I was gone? But Canadian did not perform as well as the strongly newly formed roster in Stage 3 from Xset. Xset's roster change at the start of the stage did not fully seem promising, but as the stage progresses and as they are forming as a team, they have a shot at going to the majors later on. After an 8-7 victory for Xset, again, the leaderboards get even closer in score.
Xset, they're going to take out Filthy with that. Creators instantly exchanging it as he carries us forward still for the team. NVK getting access to the bar, will work his way in for the backside, but Canadian turning it all around, trying to close it out all by himself, but cannot get the job done. Instead, it's the last player alive from Xset. It's the Yana from Xset that gets the job done and closes out on the map for Xset as they close it down in overtime here.
Lastly, we had the somehow struggling Astralis this stage up against the also struggling Mirage on Villa. So again, we got to see Villa, but in a very different way, with Mirage slaying Astralis 7-3. Dream on Mirage was completely demolishing Astralis with a 12-5 score, being the MVP of the match and coming in clutch in a 2 versus 5. Although Mirage has been in a bit of a slump nearing the end of Stage 2 and it's kind of carried on through Stage 3, if we see more of what we saw in Playday 6's match, we could have these boys make it to the majors. But still, this game was extremely exciting with a fight to the bitter end for Astralis.
He's off the maps table, but he's finally dead. It's a 3 versus 4, but now Shuttle, he's actually been able to get through. He'll find his first frag, and this retake is starting to go off without a hitch, but Benji, he might have something to say about that.
Loading also going to get in the way of this as well. The air jab perfectly timed to assist Loading here, trying to keep him alive as he swings one final time, bringing it down to a 2v1. Retro the only one left, but he needs to complete the full rotate over here to try to insert himself in between these two players. Gets the first one, knows the other one's outside, but the air jab puts him in the corner. Benji doesn't push on that though, so he's got a chance to swing with the M590, but there's not going to be enough time left. We're past 7 seconds now. It doesn't matter. Benji runs up to finish it out with a bang or a slice, apparently, as he ends the game with a knife kill, and things go into the favor of Mirage as they shut down the map 7-3.
But there you have it. Here are the standings, and you could see what I meant earlier by everything being so close for everyone. Sonic's, Space Station Gaming, and Oxygen all basically tied for first place in this incredible battle to determine who is the best. And what I find even more intriguing is that these guys have almost a sort of rock, paper, scissors algorithm going on, where Team A beats Team B but loses to Team C. It's incredibly entertaining, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the stage unfolds, because when you look at 4th place, you almost have every other team in high contention, all within a 2-point deficit. Dark Zero, Mirage, Beast Coast, and Xset, all capable of catching TSM just within one match. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the coverage from Playday 6. I cannot wait to see how the rest of these games unfold through Stage 3. So make sure you stay tuned next week for Playday 7's coverage.
Guardians of the Galaxy from Eidos Montreal first saw the trailer release in June, and well, it left me a little underwhelmed. Graphically, it was just a little lackluster, the combat seemed clunky, and yet Nate seemed all excited. Myself, I was just looking for more. I wanted a lot more. But when Marvel talks about video games, everything's getting hyped up. Insomniac right now is absolutely killing it with Spider-Man, and then the announcement of Wolverine. We're all rather excited, but can Eidos Montreal bring the same hype with Guardians of the Galaxy?
$37 units?
We appear to be 6,963 units short.
Checking.
Like I said, the reveal trailer left me underwhelmed and wanting more. However, after getting my hands on with Guardians of the Galaxy for over an hour and a half, I walked away much more impressed. Is the game perfect? No, not at all. Not yet, at least. At the time of playing the game, there was much left to attend to, with polish, bug fixes, and so forth. It's not the finished build of the game I was playing. It was a build to give the media a hands-on feel of what to expect when the game launches on October 26th. My playtime was over an hour and a half, starting and finishing with Chapter 5. I was given some extra points to spend, allowing me to test the ability system and upgrades thanks to Rocket's help. After tuning up my gear, I set out to battle the galaxy. No tutorial, mostly due to some technical issues on my end, no fault of Eidos at all. I set out to figure things out on my own, and after a while, I understood the appeal of combat. You play as Star-Lord, but utilize the Guardians to win the fight. There's no doubt the Star-Lord can fight, but it's pulling in the other Guardians to help that stood out to me. I was worried our AI companions would feel tacked on, and maybe even useless, or just somehow get in the way. However, that was the complete opposite. A prompt of the command wheel allows me to control my entire team. Commanding Groot to snag an enemy to hold them in place can then be followed up by Gamora's deadly strike ability to eliminate an enemy in mere seconds, and that felt fantastic. However, there were a few concerns as well when I finished up my game session. Remember when I said I was playing Chapter 5 for about an hour and a half? Well, within that hour and a half session, I started to hear some of the same one-liners coming out of our Guardians. I'm in Chapter 5. How sick and tired will I be listening to Drax say some of the same one-liners over and over again by the time I reach Chapter 5 again, if I'd already heard these lines so many times before? The lack of variety in dialogue has me worried of dialogue boredom. My other complaint is the voice acting. Not that it's bad, in fact, I actually enjoyed it. But why are they yelling? They're constantly yelling at each other. I'm standing side by side and they're yelling in each other's face. Yo, I can hear you. I am literally right beside you.
So what? Now I'm supposed to hack Nova Corps security?
I mean, if you don't think you can.
Cheap shot, Quill.
You can't play a Guardians of the Galaxy game without a killer soundtrack, and IDOS nailed it.
Oh no, you ain't chewing through any more of my
If you've enjoyed the soundtracks from the movies, well, I'm excited to tell you that the game brings those same vibes here as well. I felt like I was in the movies playing the game. Mostly though, I felt like I was Star-Lord playing with my band of misfits, trying to pay off a debt and save the galaxy at the same time. I'm glad I was able to play Guardians of the Galaxy, because now I'm ready for more, grooving and beating up the bad guys the entire time.
Rocky, what are you doing?
Well, guys, Nintendo had a new Nintendo Direct just last week, and we definitely have a few thoughts to kind of bounce off of each other. Nate, what are your impressions of the Nintendo Direct?
All right. Well, that's a good way to actually start it. Because, you know, it's got that Nintendo cheese all over it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. It's not for me. I personally, you know, miss the old days where we were all in, everyone was grouped together and it was this huge audience. That's what I would love to see one day again. But nonetheless, we have Nintendo with their kind of quirkiness going into this. And there were definitely a few highlights. And, you know, I guess aside from the few highlights, I was kind of falling asleep because of the Nintendo flavor. But let's get into Metroid Dread, I guess. That's one of the highlights. I did try to close my eyes partially because I don't want spoilers in this. But what I did see, it looks actually fantastic, guys. This looks like a really good kind of true to Metroid's roots kind of game. And you know, this is something that Metroid fans have been asking for a while. We already know the new Metroid Prime is in the works. Who knows when that's coming. But at least we'll have this game to kind of tide us over. But outside of that, Mario Party, the new Mario Party game, guys. I unfortunately can't remember the name because there's just like, we're on like the 20th Mario Party, it feels like. But the new Mario Party looks like, again, we're going back to our roots of when Mario Party games were great. Like, I used to spend countless hours playing Mario Party 5, especially on the GameCube, with my brothers, their girlfriends, the family, just my friends. There was so much to that game, and being able to navigate through the game board like you could back in those days where everyone's kind of taking their own path. That's what made Mario Party great. So with new graphics and maybe some new fun and mini games, I think that is going to be absolutely awesome. But I feel like I could keep talking forever, guys. I mean, I only have a few minutes to talk, but I guess if there was one more thing that's sort of a highlight for me is that KOTOR is coming to the Switch. Now, for people that are new to this franchise, this might not appeal to them. Of course, this is a game from the original Xbox.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I know this is a beloved franchise, and people have been wanting to play this wherever they can. And it recently came backwards compatible on the Xbox. So it coming to the Switch for people to play on the go, what a great fit. But okay, I've ranted enough. I can keep going on about great things about this conference and maybe some of the lousier things. But Scott, what are your impressions of this Nintendo Direct this year?
Well, for as far as highlights, things that I'm excited about, but I didn't quite know prior, this might come as a surprise. Chocobo GP.
Yeah.
Chocobo kart. I'm
Yo, Final Fantasy kart. Yes.
Yes. No, the Mario's had too long at the top, you know? And Diddy Kong doesn't seem like he's coming back as a challenger. Chocobo racing of any kind sounds a little silly, but it might actually be there for some people. And
Sure.
I'm looking forward to that one specifically. Metroid Dread, I think you took just about everything I could say already. It's going to be a massive success, I'm predicting, and it is a follow-up to Metroid Fusion, which was my absolute favorite one of all time. So I am super into this one. I know a little bit of what you may consider spoilers, and I'm just super excited. That's going to be a huge step towards Metroid Prime 4, which is going to be another absolute blockbuster hit. So I'm looking forward to those two. There was a couple things that were interesting to see. Other than that, the Monster Hunter Rise having a new kind of season of DLC, it looked, or a large expansion. That's good to see. I want to see more support there in the ways that Monster Hunter World had, because this is just the next iteration. Why not?
Yeah.
There's the whole, I think maybe my favorite thing that they announced was the inclusion of N64 and Sega.
Oh, exactly.
That was kind of a surprise to see Sega.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
N64, it seems like they're starting with a few games. Kind of, you know, Ocarina of Time, that makes sense. You have to have that one. I'm a little upset that I'm not seeing Perfect Dark on there, but I think that makes sense.
Dude, where's GoldenEye?
Xbox
They're giving us the 64 controller. Where's
Soon, bud.
GoldenEye?
Soon.
Like, that would have just
Soon.
crushed it for me. Right now, I'm kind of iffy on it because I'm not the biggest. We'll get to my part, but yeah, I was just GoldenEye. Give me my GoldenEye. That's what I wanted.
Or another GoldenEye if anyone else is out there wanting to make it.
Hey, that's what I'm predicting, boys.
Well, I know Interactive right now.
These may inspire some new projects, and that's what I'm really hoping for. In the case of KOTOR coming out, it gives a lot of people the chance to experience it the first time over, and maybe they'll come out with a KOTOR 3. It's going to be years apart if they do that, but it just brings back possibilities. But if I think about N64 games I really want to see, and I've been talking about it a long time ago, Operation Winback. That's back in the spotlight. I didn't think another human would ever utter those words.
Dude, I like that. That was cool.
Oh, I'm in. You know what? That may have been a precursor to Metal Gear Solid. I'm not certain, but it was Nintendo's flavor of it.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm excited. There's not too much that kind of seemed like a drag to me. There's things that I'm not super interested in, like Kirby, but I know my brother, for example, is super excited about Kirby. So there's something in there for everybody, I think. But Drew, I think this one had the highest chance of missing you out of the three of us.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I think you nailed it. It did miss me a lot, to be honest. There's like 95% of this thing. I was just like, it's just not for me. I'm no longer the biggest, one of the big Nintendo fans, right? Like, I appreciate what Nintendo does and who they are and the craft that they've created for themselves. As far as watching the conference, though, like the Direct, Hyrule Warrior really stood out. The new expansion, Wave 2, is on its way. I'm super excited for that. Of all the games there, that was my big standout. I'm not a big Splatoon guy, so to see Splatoon 3, all right, cool. Somebody's going to really like that. Bayonetta 3, I know a lot of people lost their mind when they saw that, which is great, but again, not for me, right? And a lot of this conference was not for me. What really kind of irritated me a little bit, though, was the announcements of other announcements. So it's we have one more thing to show you, and then you get into Animal Crossing. The person walks up into the museum, hangs a left through the door, he goes to a black screen, comes back out and says Nintendo Direct coming. I'm like, come on, they did it twice. They did that twice.
They did it twice.
They announced 2 Nintendo Directs within the Nintendo Direct. I'm like, come on, guys, like seriously, like this is just, to me that was really
Smash character. Oh no, gotta wait.
Well, exactly. Right?
I want to know if any of you have predictions on that. By the way,
I don't.
I'm gonna put my foot down and just say Master Chief because I'm being really optimistic.
Yeah, not even close. What about you?
That's
you
not
have
close.
one. Nate's out in the clouds.
Okay, well,
Doom guy.
Snake is a part. So okay, well, Doom guy would be a great one, but Snake is in there. How about Raiden? Even if it's Ninja Raiden, I'd be down with that. But I think my serious suggestion would be Shovel Knight.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Shovel Knight's probably the better pick if
Great
everybody.
fit.
Yeah, but overall, you know, it felt like a very Nintendo Direct. So for me, small highlights. Yeah, getting back into the 64 and Sega thing was pretty cool. But it's a nostalgia
Dude, the expansion
trip.
pack.
Dude,
What a great expansion pack.
Which is great, right? But that's another online service that's coming. So they're going to up their service, which is cool. But it's not enough to pull me
Still no voice
into
chat.
that. Well, that's right. Like when you compete with the Nintendo competing with Xbox and PlayStation, party chat's a big deal, and the fact that it's not on Nintendo makes that a big problem. And yet you can they want you to play some of these old titles online. So they want you to bring the N64 Mario Kart and go online and play against other friends. That's fantastic. How do I talk to my friends? You don't. Well, then it's just they're there, but then they fall back down, right?
No, man,
they
it's
climb up
just
and then
Nintendo, man. It's Nintendo.
It's like a roller coaster of Nintendo emotions. So it's all in all, yeah, it wasn't for me. But dude, I can't wait for Hyrule Warriors expansion. Wave 2 comes out at the end of October on the 26th or 29th, and yeah, I'll be there on day one getting it because I fell in love with that. We'll talk about Skyward Sword maybe another time. But either way, that's going to wrap up this little segment. Let us know, what did you think of the Nintendo Direct over to InsideTheGame.ca.
This week, I'm grabbing my Nintendo Switch and I'm crash landing in Residual.
What if life was a game and someone else controlled you? That would explain so much!
We're jumping into Residual this week on the Nintendo Switch. This is a cool 2D pixelated survival game. And you know what? I haven't played too many games in the survival genre. I've played maybe 3 or 4, and they all have their own kind of major differences, and this game is definitely no different. I mean, Residual is a cool looking game. I love, pixel art, pixelated graphics, and they've done a really good job here. This may throw people off maybe right from the beginning if this is an art style that maybe isn't your favorite, because it is fairly heavily pixelated. Like, we're getting some, big blocky characters and just the way this game's laid out. But honestly, I think it works really well with the style of game we're playing here. We're crash landing, and what the idea is we're trying to gather materials and resources and be able to kind of get the ship fixed back up so we can leave the planet. The idea is we have to travel through these procedurally generated worlds. So every time you play through this game, you're getting a different kind of planet that you're landing on, whether it be the types of resources you can find there and which abundance you can find them, what kind of creatures and other things are there that maybe could be attacking you as you're traversing this kind of interesting terrain. It's obviously very blocky with the pixelation, but just the way they kind of laid it all out, it's kind of jungly, kind of futuristic. It's very interesting. I really enjoyed the art style, but at times I did find it to be a little bit dark, especially when you started to head underground. And that's really the main thing with this game. The idea is we have to kind of travel all over. We kind of get a cool visor that allows us to kind of go in and check the map for the different types of resources available depending on which area of the map we're in. So that kind of allows you to be able to mine those resources with things that you can build at your ship. And there's a lot of different kind of crafting elements into this game as well. But honestly, when you first get into it, if you're not a fan of this, survival genre, you may find it difficult because there's not a whole lot of hand-holding here. Yeah, they do describe and kind of explain some things as you go and kind of learn about them as you play through. But honestly, I had a bit of a difficult time getting going on this because I didn't exactly know what I had to be doing at all times. There are objectives on the side, and that's really handy, but at the same time, it may just ask you to find something like sealant. Well, what is sealant? What does it look like? Where can I find it? It's not something that's necessarily listed on your visor. So there are elements to this game that are difficult, and once you kind of break through those, this game really does open up though. And honestly, that's where I had the most fun, is kind of once I broke through that first initial, learning the mechanics, the movement, which we'll get to in a little bit. Honestly, there's just a few things in this game right at the beginning that may hold newcomers back a little bit. Even though this one was a tough one to get into for me personally, just because I'm not a huge survival genre fan or just a player in general. This one was a little bit difficult for me to kind of just break through and break open into, but once I did, I truly did enjoy my time with this game. It was a ton of fun. I love the ability to kind of traverse all these procedurally generated lands and planets. I mean, there's so many different kind of nooks and crannies to search through while you're looking for certain, items or resources. And they did a really good job of, once you kind of get through those initial kind of growing pains, of being able to give you the freedom that you want to be able to do the things that you kind of want to test out in this game. I mean, there isn't too many things about this one I ran into that caused me too many problems. The controls at the beginning were a little difficult to get used to how the jumping and grabbing and climbing up on ledges work, but once I sorted that out, it was, pretty simple all the way through. The controls were laid out fairly well. The inventory screen was the only other thing that really kind of hung me up every once in a while. I don't like every time that I have to access the inventory, which is quite often in this game, that it just kind of throws up a big black screen and I get small inventory tiles. I just don't understand why that couldn't have just been overlaid on top of the gameplay already. Hey, it's a design choice. It's not something I'm necessarily loving, but it's not ruining my overall experience. It did kind of remove you every once in a while just because of how often you have to access that inventory, but I'm nitpicking more or less here. Overall, I just really enjoyed the way this game played. I think anybody that is looking to get into the survival genre is really going to enjoy this one. In conclusion, my time with Residual has been good. I mean, if you're new to the survival game genre, like I said, this one might be difficult to break through initially. But honestly, I think anybody can have a good time playing this game, and for 20 bucks, you're getting a ton of game for that price. And I just had a blast playing this one. The minor hiccups throughout that are actually already starting to be addressed by the developers. I mean, I gotta give this game a good one. I'm giving it a 7.5 because it was a blast. In conclusion, my time with Residual on the Nintendo Switch was a lot of fun. You can play this game handheld on the big screen. It doesn't matter. It looks great either way. I thought they did a great job with the art style. The gameplay was a ton of fun. It was a little bit hard to break through the first hour or so, but outside of that, this game really opens up and it is super rewarding and a ton of fun. I gotta give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Residual is a well-made survival game with great pixel graphics and challenging worlds to overcome. Fans of the genre will no doubt love this one. Newcomers may find it more challenging to get into though.
Well, that'll wrap up today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. And of course, you can always be the highlight of the week by going to InsideTheGame.ca or hitting us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip. But this week, I've got us covered. Sometimes it's all about hitting that right angle. Until next week, thanks again, and we'll see you inside the game.
Op 4 has located a bomb.